They said Ukraine had nothing left that could surprise Russia. They said Moscow had seen every drone, every decoy, every trick in the playbook. They said there was no way, absolutely no way, that Ukraine could hit the one place Russia believed was untouchable. The VIP compound outside Moscow, where oligarchs, generals, and inner circle elites hid behind layers of steel, jammers, missiles, and lies. But on a cold night when the sky over Europe looked like polished glass, something small, fast, and silent cut through the dark. Something no radar operator had ever trained for. Something not even NATO realized Ukraine had finished building. A kamikaze jet, not a drone, not a missile. A full hybrid jet platform reconstructed from the skeleton of a Soviet trainer aircraft, stripped to the bones, reforged in underground hangars, and turned into a flying smart bomb. A ghost with wings. It carried no pilot. It carried no ejection seat. It carried no future. Only coordinates, only intent, only a single purpose: find Moscow's VIP fortress and dive. Ukraine didn't announce it. They didn't tease it. They didn't leak it. They simply launched it, powered by an engine that roared like an angry welding torch, but tuned so low and so slow that Russian radar mistook it for a civilian weather anomaly. The first warning was a phone call. Not military to military, not a radar alert, a phone call from a sleepy air defense officer who thought his screen was glitching. This was Moscow's problem. Too many layers of security, but not enough belief anything could breach them. When everything feels safe long enough, the human brain stops remembering danger exists. The kamikaze jet flew low enough to trace the curves of the treetops, not too low to crash, just low enough that every branch it passed vibrated like a guitar string. Deer sprinted, owls lifted off, dogs 3 villages away barked at a stranger in the sky that no human could see. Inside Ukraine's undisclosed bunker, 2 engineers, 1 pilot, and a single commander watched the grainy black and white feed from the nose cam. No sound, just the shaky forward view of a machine that had never been tested at this distance. The pilot who designed the controls said nothing. His left hand trembled, not because he feared failure, but because the jet was doing something he never thought he'd live to witness. Gliding through Russian airspace like it owned the place. And then came the moment Russia realized something was wrong. A SAM battery outside Bryansk finally caught a glimpse. A tiny heat signature moving like a drunk bee. Too slow for a missile, too fast for a drone. The officer hesitated. Russian doctrine demands verification, reconstruction, confirmation, clearance, political permission, and then maybe they'll push a button. The officer did none of that. He panicked and fired. A single missile streaked upward, slicing the night. It missed by 60 meters. The kamikaze jet didn't dodge. It didn't react. It didn't try to escape. It simply absorbed the explosion's shockwave, tilted slightly, and corrected itself like it had been slapped awake. Now Russia knew. Now Moscow's military phone lines exploded with noise. Dozens of officers shouting over each other, asking what was flying toward them at a speed that wasn't supposed to be possible for anything unmanned. Ukraine's commander issued one sentence. Phase 2. Onboard systems shifted. The jet's wings dipped. A low hum rippled through its frame. And suddenly the machine accelerated, harder than it had the entire mission. The moment it sped up, Russia's entire radar grid lit up. Every sensor across 3 regions screamed at once. Lines on tactical screens drew a straight path to the VIP compound. The compound that housed generals, billionaire donors, ghost ministers who never appear in public, families of certain senior officials who live in a luxury no Russian civilian has ever seen. The kind of place where the wine cellars alone had better protection than half the country's military bases. It was supposed to be untouchable. Suddenly it wasn't. Russian anti-air operators scrambled. They fumbled for launch keys. They shouted codes they forgot years ago because they never imagined needing them. Trucks revved. Turrets spun. Missiles lifted. Russia finally decided to fight back. Too late. The kamikaze jet crossed into restricted Moscow airspace. The Kremlin issued an emergency lockdown. Helicopters scrambled to evacuate the compound. Guards ushered elites into underground shelters. Panic spread like a virus inside people who never imagined war could break into their private world. Russia fired everything it had: Buk missiles, S-300s, Pantsir bursts, electronic jammers throwing out enough signal to fry a television tower. The entire forest lit up like a Christmas tree of tracers and explosions. And yet the jet kept coming. It wasn't indestructible, it wasn't magic, it wasn't stealth. It was simple: too fast to jam, too small to lock onto, too low to intercept, and too stubborn to die. A Pantsir battery finally grazed it. Shrapnel tore through its left wing. The camera jolted. Sparks flooded the frame. Engineers in the bunker gasped. The jet lost altitude, dipping so low it scraped the snow off a frozen field. For 3 seconds, it looked doomed. For 3 seconds, Russia thought they'd stopped it. Then the jet corrected, straightened, climbed. And now it was less than 50 kilometers from the VIP compound. Inside the Russian command center, a general screamed into a phone that the Kremlin's elite shelter wasn't rated for a direct strike. His voice cracked. His fear was not military, it was personal. The compound didn't just house people, it housed secrets, documents, servers, and assets no outsider could ever be allowed to see. If that jet hit the wrong building, the blast wouldn't just shatter walls, it would shatter careers, expose corruption, destroy leverage, and humiliate the government on a level propaganda couldn't erase. All batteries, fire now! Missiles erupted like geysers. Ukraine's engineers leaned forward. The jet wove, but only slightly. It didn't need to dodge everything, just enough to survive. Then came Russia's fatal mistake. They activated the emergency compound shield. It was a newer system, a dome-shaped jammer designed to scramble incoming guidance systems. But the system had been installed hurriedly, without full calibration. Instead of blinding the Kamikaze jet, it blinded Russia's own defenses. The Buk battery closest to the fortress lost its lock and fired blind. The missile arced and slammed straight into the outer wall of the VIP compound itself. The explosion shook the earth. Glass shattered across the courtyard. Guards ducked. Sirens wailed. A fountain collapsed into a smoking crater. The very system designed to save the fortress had accidentally opened its first wound. Inside Ukraine's bunker, nobody celebrated. They didn't trust luck. Not yet. The jet cleared a final tree line, revealing the compound lighting up the night like a cluster of white diamonds. The pilot who helped design the system whispered something under his breath. Now. The jet dove. Russian forces fired in pure panic. Machine guns, cannons, anything with a barrel. Tracers zipped past the nose cam like angry fireflies. But the jet was committed. The descent was locked. Nothing could abort it now. A helicopter desperately lifted off from the courtyard, blades spinning so violently the snow blasted into the air like a blizzard. It tried to climb, fleeing the blast radius. It was seconds too slow. The Kamikaze jet struck the compound's central administrative wing, the one rumored to house classified files, restricted communications, and the luxurious offices of certain elite members who claimed never to use them. The screen inside Ukraine's bunker turned white, then black, then nothing. Silence. The shockwave ripped through the compound like a giant fist, flipping armored cars, shredding reinforced windows, and tearing a 13-meter crater into the courtyard. Fire climbed the walls like vines. Smoke smeared across the sky. Russian sirens wailed across 3 districts as panic spread faster than the flames. But the explosion wasn't the part that broke Russia. It was what happened after. Within minutes, videos leaked. From residents nearby who filmed the flash, the smoke, the crater. One clip captured the VIP convoy fleeing down a forest road, like rats abandoning a sinking ship. Another showed helicopters spiraling away in chaos. Within hours, people online noticed something strange. Russia's ministry didn't deny the attack. They didn't blame Ukraine. They didn't even respond for nearly half a day. And when they finally did, they made their worst possible move. They claimed it was a controlled demolition exercise. At 2 a.m. in the middle of winter, next to a residential area, without evacuation notices, on a VIP base. The lie was so absurd that even Russian citizens laughed. Trust cracked, loyalty dimmed, the illusion of invincibility evaporated. But the real damage came from inside. Russian intelligence agencies immediately began blaming each other. Who failed to detect it? Who failed to authorize interception? Who leaked the compound's layout? Who allowed a blind buck strike on their own base? Power factions turned on each other like starving wolves. Some said it was sabotage by rival officers. Some whispered it was an inside job designed to embarrass a specific elite. Some believed the jet was impossible without foreign help, which only made the leadership quietly panic more. The Kremlin attempted to tighten control, but paranoia had already spread like poison. Officers feared being purged. Technicians wiped logs to avoid taking blame. Commanders argued about protocol. No one trusted anyone. And something even worse unfolded behind the scenes. Hours after the explosion, technicians discovered something alarming. The blast had exposed a section of the compound's underground vault. Not destroyed, exposed. Enough to reveal that the fortress wasn't just housing VIPs. It was storing documents, servers, financial records, proof of where certain money had gone for 10 years. People inside the system knew what those files meant, knew the consequences if they ever leaked, knew that if Ukraine or anyone else got their hands on them, the fallout would be nuclear. Not literally, but politically. So Russia issued the order: seal the vault, burn anything compromised, silence any witnesses, control the narrative. But the damage was already out. Satellite images leaked. Observers posted heat signatures of fires sweeping the vault area. Analysts online noticed inconsistencies. Telegram channels whispered about lost files and missing backups. The world did what the world always does: speculate. But Ukraine? Ukraine didn't say a word. That silence, cold, deliberate, surgical, made Russia panic even more. Silence from an enemy means intention. It means confidence. It means there might be more jets, more prototypes, more surprises in the dark. Russian citizens began asking, if one unmanned jet could reach the heart of Moscow, what else could? Military commanders asked something even scarier. If Ukraine built one, how many more have they already hidden? But the truth was far simpler. Ukraine had only one airframe, one prototype, one chance. And it worked. Inside the Ukrainian bunker, when the smoke cleared from the final transmission, the commander removed his headset, rested both palms on the control desk, and exhaled for the first time in hours. The engineers said nothing. The pilot walked out, leaned against a cold concrete wall, and closed his eyes. Not out of relief, but out of disbelief. A weapon he designed on a chalkboard had just reshaped the psychology of a nuclear superpower. Not by destroying Moscow, not by killing high-ranking elites, not by leveling the compound, but by showing the world something Russia could never undo: that even the most protected fortress of the mightiest state can be touched. Russia deployed rapid response forces to the region. They questioned every guard, arrested half the compound staff, purged officers from the air defense network, replaced 3 generals, and fired 2 intelligence chiefs. The purge was loud enough that foreign embassies heard the echoes. But none of that changed the crater in the courtyard. None of that changed the viral videos. None of that changed the smell of fear that settled inside the upper ranks like damp air in an abandoned house. The international reaction was a shockwave of its own. Some governments issued warnings. Others demanded explanations. Defense analysts debated Ukraine's new capability. NATO intelligence quietly cooperated in reviewing satellite images, not because they endorsed the strike, but because they needed to understand how something that small evaded an entire Russian air defense grid. Even China, which rarely comments on Russian internal matters, issued a carefully worded statement about regional stability and unexpected escalation through unconventional means. If Ukraine could do this to Moscow, maybe someone else someday could do the same to Beijing. Suddenly, every major capital in the world was asking one question: what was that jet? Inside Ukraine, rumors blossomed. Some said it was a foreign hybrid technology. Some said it was a decommissioned aircraft rebuilt from scratch. Some believed it was an entirely new weapon disguised as an old one. The government offered no clarity. They didn't need to. Ambiguity was the point. Fear is more effective than facts. But the story didn't end with the explosion. Now, 2 days later, satellite analysts noticed something else. Russian construction crews had begun tearing down what remained of the administrative wing, not repairing, not reinforcing, flattening, as if trying to erase not just the damage but the memory of what happened. It didn't work. You can rebuild walls. You can resurface courtyards. You can replace guards. You can paint over scorch marks. But you cannot erase the moment a dictatorship realizes its enemies can reach the places it hides. And this time, the strike didn't weaken Russia from the outside. It weakened Russia from within. Inside the Kremlin walls, loyalties fractured, accusations intensified. Sleepless nights became routine. Every unidentified blip on radar triggered panic. Every false alarm became a crisis. Every whisper of a new Ukrainian weapon became a headline in intelligence briefings. Nothing terrifies a regime more than the idea that its enemies have grown more creative than its defenses. That's why this attack mattered, because it proved something Russia never wanted the world to say out loud. Their most fortified sanctuary was only as strong as their inability to imagine the unimaginable. Ukraine imagined it, built it, launched it, and Moscow felt it. No declaration, no speech, no warning. Just a streak in the sky, a flash in the night, and a crater in a place that was supposed to be eternal. Russia will rebuild, of course. They will rebuild everything. The wall, the courtyard, the narrative, the illusion. They will swear they are in control. They will swear nothing was lost. But somewhere deep in the compound's underground hallways, behind sealed steel doors that now smell faintly of burned concrete, officials know the truth they cannot say. A single unmanned jet bent the arc of their certainty, and nothing, not reconstruction, not censorship, not propaganda, can restore a sense of invulnerability once it's shattered. Ukraine didn't just strike a place, they struck a belief, and the echo of that strike will linger in Moscow far longer than the smoke ever did.